Okay, so if we are ready to start, we will begin. Sandeep, since you're here, from all of us, um, our condolences to you. For those of you who are not aware, Mr. Sandeep Dutt lost his mother last week. So on behalf of everybody, I would like to extend our heartfelt condolences to him. His mother was a great lady, and she will always remain as one of the most graceful, well-informed, strong, courageous lady that I've ever known. And let us remember her fondly. And I dedicate this session to Sneha Roraj.
Thank you, Brinda. I just wrote somewhere today that in the history of bookselling in India, she's possibly the woman of substance who has served as a bookseller for 50 years in a male-dominated profession.
Absolutely.
Which
You're
I
right.
think, which I think is a beautiful thing, because having served 50 plus years in a profession where there are no women employed,
Absolutely.
you don't see bookseller women in India. So
Absolutely right.
all credit to her and how she single-handedly has
True.
brought us all up. And she only said, no one should cry. All you should do is you should feel happy for every moment. And that's what I learned from her.
Lovely.
And I wish you people could join us yesterday. We celebrated her
I
life
know,
with over 300 people last week.
I was present in spirit, Sandeep.
Thank you so much. Please
Sitting
carry on.
in Noida, that's the best we could do. But, I always, I've been telling so many people that whenever I went to the bookshop, I never saw her just sitting at the counter. Either she was reading, she was knitting, she was crocheting, and she knew where every book was. And she would advise you on the kind of book you should get. And so many other things on bringing up children. I've had, my husband and I have had long chats with her. We've shared many cups of coffee whenever we've gone to the bookshop or otherwise. And she was a wonderful, wonderful person to know, and such an inspiration and such a role model also.
Thank you,
So,
Brinda,
pranams to her.
for the teachers here. She was a master's in Sanskrit.
Yes, she was.
She could write English. She could write English so beautifully.
Yes,
she could recite virtually every hymn you can think of.
Absolutely.
Right from the Gayatri Mantra to just about every hymn and prayer you could think of.
Right.
She never ever referred to a book in my life. She could just recite them.
Yeah.
And then we have a picture home that she was invited by Pandit Nehru to meet her when she was president of IP College. So she's
just imagine
a woman of that era,
that
time. So thank you so much. I don't want to really take more time, but I'm really indebted to each one of you.
This had to be done. Thank you so much for for allowing us to talk about her, and I thank the Lord for having allowed me to know her and to have been inspired by her. So coming back to the session today, we have taken the topic of water as a rejuvenator. Why water? Because Mr. Ghosh actually said that he would like to next talk about watercolor. And so I thought that why not we make water as our theme, and one aspect of water, because what the topic of water is so vast. So as a rejuvenator, and water is something that purifies. Water is talked about in every religious text as something that actually rejuvenates people, purifies people, brings back or gives life. And we are born in water, and we exist on water. So it became a very, very meaningful and an important topic to have the theme. And so I'd like to start, in fact, by something about water, that an author who's well known for her books on suspense thrillers, Margaret Atwood, has written something beautiful. It's a small little poem on water, and I would like to start by reading that and then go on to other pieces. So she says, water does not resist. Water flows. When you plunge your hands into it, all you feel is a caress. Water is not a solid wall. It will not stop you. But water always goes where it wants to go, and nothing in the end can stand against it. So that's the quality of water. And when I was trying to research and find enough number of poems on water to be used today, I found so many different kinds of poems on water. And then I thought that I should narrow down my search. And that is why finally I said, let me only use that aspect of water, which is to be used as a rejuvenator, which gives you back your energy, which gives you back life. And keeping that in mind, I made a few other selections of simple poems because I thought we should dwell on something simple, because every time you open Google and ask for poems on water, the topmost ones would be poems like the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, where I think most of us know the famous lines of water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink, and things like that. So I wanted to do something which was not so popular, not so well known. Poets who are not too well known in the classical field of poetry, and at the same time, they have done tremendous work. So I chose some very contemporary poets, and I'd like to begin with a very short poem by someone who is slowly becoming one of my favorite poets. Wendell is the name, Like the Water. So I'll start with this. In fact, I'll start with another poem of Wendell Berry. It's about the 1 minute, sorry. Like the water of a deep stream, love is always too much. We did not make it, though we drink till we burst. We cannot have it all or want it all. In its abundance, it survives our thirst. In the evening, we come down to the shore to drink our fill and sleep while it flows through the regions of the dark. It does not hold us, except we keep returning to its rich waters, thirsty. We enter, willing to die into the commonwealth of its pity. So, a little abstract, but she talks about this unending quality of water and how it affects our life. So before I go on further, if there is anyone who would like to share a reflection quickly on this little piece or the earlier piece that I read, or has anything to share about their experience with poems on water, we'd like to take that, and then I move on to one or two more little poems that I have selected to be read today, and we will also discuss the nature of these poems. Is there anyone who would like to say something?
नमस्ते मैम।
नमस्ते सुमन।
हाँ जी मैम, मैंने पानी पर एक कविता लिखी है।
अच्छा,
तो मैं वो सुना सकती हूँ?
बिल्कुल सुना सकती हैं। हमें हमेशा अच्छा लगता है जब जब आप लोग अपनी कविताएं सुनाते हैं।
हाँ जी, एक सेकेंड। थोड़ा। पानी बोला धीरे से, मैं हूँ जीवन की आस। पानी बोला धीरे से, मैं हूँ जीवन की आस। मुझसे ही हर चीज चले, मुझसे ही चले सांस। नदी झरना।
Somebody's Samsung SM A536E, please switch off your mic so that we can hear Suman.
नदी झरना ताल बना, कभी बना मैं बर्फ का तन। बादल बनकर उड़ता फिरूं, बरस पड़ूं जब भी हो सावन। पौधों को मैं सींचता हूँ, प्यास बुझाऊं हर जीव की। माँ के जैसे लाड करूं मैं, ना हो कमी किसी चीज की। पर अब मैं हूं थोड़ा दुखी, मुझको लोग न समझ पाए। बर्बादी की हद कर डाली, बूंद बूंद को है तरसाए। संभालो मुझको प्यार से, समझाता हूँ हर बार। संभालो मुझको प्यार से, समझाता हूँ हर बार। ना रहा अगर मैं धरती पर, तो जीवन जाओगे हार, तो जीवन जाओगे हार।
वेरी
धन्यवाद।
नाइस, वेरी नाइस। मुझे ये बात अच्छी लगी सुमन कि आपने आज की जो परिस्थिति है उसको भी
हाँ
अपने
जी।
कविता में संभाली और एक मैसेज भी छोड़ा लोगों को कि पानी की रक्षा हमें करनी चाहिए, वरना हमारे पास पानी की कमी हो सकती है। थैंक यू
जी
फॉर
मैम,
दैट। ऑल राइट,
धन्यवाद।
is there anyone else who would like to add on or say anything? Otherwise, I would like to read a few lines by the great Rumi on water. So Rumi says, any soul that drank the nectar of your passion was lifted from that water of life. He is in a state of elation. Death came, smelt me, and sensed your fragrance, and instead from then on, death lost all hope of me. This is really the rejuvenating quality of water, how water gives life and saves life. That's what Rumi says here. And there are other poems, uh, one or two. One poem which I particularly liked, I shall reserve for the end after Mr. Ghosh and Jatin have done their bit, and then I will move on to the other poem that I want to read. I just want to say that, in fact, I came across a beautiful poem which probably I would have read, but I think let Mr. Ghosh talk about the watercolor first, because this poem is on Monet's water lilies. So I shall read about that, the description of Monet's water lilies in a poem by an admirer, and that for later. But now I shall invite Subhashish to come and talk about watercolor, and then we will go on to Jatin, and at the end, I'll request Jatin to give me a few minutes so that I can end it with another very meaningful poem. So over to Subhashish. When you want to.
Yeah. Watercolor is one medium people understand as any color that is mixed with water. Yes, probably grammatically it is right, but as technicalities of painters, we have one particular way of painting, which is called watercolor painting. The paints or the colors which can be dissolved in water, they are used in few other ways also. There is a particular way of doing the painting. It's called tempera. Now, tempera, previously, at the beginning, that's what people used to use. Tempera is a thick color. It's not transparent, it's opaque. It's opaque means you are allowed to make mistakes. You can use another color to hide your mistake. So previously, the work was going on with that system. To understand it, the easiest way is today's the color which is in the market known as poster color. Poster color is a thick paste kind of thing which you dilute to your own choice, but it is to be used actually thick to mask your mistake also. But watercolor is a totally different thing altogether. A chemistry teacher probably would tell you this is something which is the best example of solution. That is, it is transparent, it flows. And if you couldn't keep the transparency while painting, then it's not a good quality of watercolor. The transparency have to be maintained. The flowing quality of watercolor has to be maintained, and that's how it goes. Now, at present, first, I would like you people to see some of the paintings, and then I'll talk about them. Okay, one by one, deep breath again.
Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
These are the paintings which are watercolor painting, but fairly earlier school of art. And then it came to another technique, same watercolor, called wash technique, which probably someday I'll talk about. It's quite an elaborate process. Now, this is a kind of painting which is fairly modern way of using the watercolor. If you look at the bird, all the colors are absolutely fresh, and there is a kind of carelessness in it. But the colors are all transparent. You can see the flow and the mixing of color at the background and in the plumage also. Here, it is absolutely essential, must, that you go from lightest color to the darker color. Once you have used the dark color, you can't go back to light color. So it's very, very taxing on the brain. On the other hand, it's fun to work because it is a kind of dialogue between the painting, your color, water, dryness or wet, and the artist himself. And to top everything all, some time ago, I talked about Impressionism. You can see that very carefully, they didn't really try to bring out the details. On the other hand, the impression is given. You can see the flow of color, you can see the transparency of color and the freshness. These are the things which are absolutely essential in watercolor. The colors have to be fresh. There has to be that amount of carelessness kind of thing. Now, immense practice makes it look like carelessness. You have to exactly know all the time. First rule is your paper has to be kind of moist all the time. Now, how much? That depends. When you want the color to actually fuse, like in this painting, on the right side, lower corner, you can see a dark color which exploded into the light color. Now, this explosion, that heavy explosion, comes only when the water is in a big amount. On the other hand, the rest of it is partially dry, partially wet, a kind of moist. On the other hand, top left corner, when you see the leaves of coconut tree, you can see the sharp lines. That is when the paper is dry. So one has to be all the time careful about paper shouldn't get dry. Paper should get dry only as much as I want it, and that's how the work has to go on. With the practice, enormous amount of wastage of paper, if you call it, one learns this technique. This is my favorite one, painting. Today, people love to do this kind of work where it's the impression of whatever I am doing, plus that flowing of water, plus the color explosion, plus keeping the transparency, all that is in that. So one of the best quality of watercolor you can see in this. In other words, you can say that your painting should look like painting. They shouldn't look like photographs. Comparatively dry paper they use with the stand of the light. On the other hand, just on the right side, lowest middle area, you can see the explosion of dark color into reddish light color. And there aren't too many watercolorists in India or in the world for that matter. People go for quick painting of oil painting, and particularly now that acrylic has come in the market, people go for acrylic color. There you don't have to be so careful all the time. One is, see the way he's holding the brush. Second is his hand can't rest on the paper at all because the paper is a bit wet. You can see the way the colors are exploding on two sides. And you may have seen also that the brush is filled with color and water in such a way that he just presses the brush, makes it broad, and the color changes. He's using red and black, but he isn't using two different brushes. In one stroke, that both the colors come. That is again a speciality of Chinese, who use black so beautifully. Rest of the world, normally in watercolor, we people don't use black. We use dark color. We have our own formula of making dark color, and that gives the effect. We don't go for, you can see the careless strokes, but it's not careless at all. He may have made maybe few thousand paintings before he can be so careless,
It's beautiful, sir.
I think. Thank you.
That piece, that last piece was simply beautiful. And now I understand why Robert Hayden wrote this beautiful poem on Monet's water lilies. So I'll just read this before I invite Jatin to tell us about water and music. Monet's Water Lilies by Robert Hayden. Today, as the news from Selma and Saigon poisons the air like fallout, I come again to see the serene, great picture that I love. Here, space and time exist in light. The eye, like the eye of faith, believes. The seen, the known, dissolve in iridescence, become elusive flesh of light that was not, was, forever, is. O light beheld as through refracting tears, here is the aura of that world each of us has lost. Here is the shadow of its joy. This poem was written, as you can guess, by the names of those places, Selma and Saigon in Vietnam. And this was something that the poet wrote at that time of the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement, and how what he wants to say is how art provides a solace from all miseries, all sufferings, all depressions. And with that, I'd like to invite Jatin. Jatin, what do you have for us today? How would you connect water with music?
Good evening, everyone. Am I clearly audible?
Yes, you are.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So today, I have chosen two topics that how sound engineers try to understand the nature of the water and how they can use that in their sounds. Apart from that, if we have seen in the video that Sir has shared, the painting that was done by the watercolor. In the painting also, we were seeing the nature of the element that was used. Apart from the visuals that were created, like a bird or the flower was given, the strokes of the brushes that were there, you might have noticed that the water was flowing, like a small dot was flowing around, which is a natural property of the water. Somehow musicians have also used the same effect, like since now like we can understand that music is a language of emotions. Okay, so it's not like an it's not like a painting, like through the music definitely I cannot create any graphic to show you the water or give you any visual effect. But if I will talk about the feelings that comes with the water, then definitely musicians have worked on that. So if we talk about the water, then what comes in the mind? Let's talk about the ocean, let's say. So we know that a lot of ocean is still undiscovered. lot of mysterious creatures are there. And if I talk about the mysterious creatures, then of course it gives us the feeling of mystery, like a mystery that comes to mind. Apart from that, to create that mystery, musicians do use the echo in their sound, the echoes. And if I'm talking about the echo, then it's just not like that they have created something by themselves. If you try to look at any video of any sea creature, let's say an example of the whale, and if you will look at the sound, if you will try to listen to the sound of a whale, it's also like echoing around. So the same way they have used. Apart from that, if you talk about the property of a water, then definitely it's like a flowing state. Generally, we imagine the water like that. So I will try to share a video with you. It's a video of a video game, Super Mario. I think we all are familiar with that video game. And I will talk particularly about the level where Super Mario reached to the underwater level. Apart from that, once you will try to focus on the music, you will start um, you will start exploring that sound also, the way the melody is flowing up and down, which is clearly showing how the flow of water. Let me share my screen, and please observe the melody that will be shared there. Our music. ASMR is another genre, it's another category that is quite popular these days. People also call it ambience music. So what does it mean? It creates an ambience in your head, and some people also consider it like a brain massage when they put the headphones. So if we talk about the ambience music, then particularly you will notice in that they have used the elements of the underwater surroundings. And if someone has tried the swimming ever, then they might also have noticed when we submerge our body into the water underwater, there is some calmness because we actually cannot hear anything around, and because that is also a property of a sound. Higher pitches cannot travel underwater, only the lower pitches can travel. That's why when I have taken the example of a whale, you might have noticed, you might start imagining like how the whale also sounds underwater. There's a deep voice, there's a deep pitch, and there's an echo also, there's a reverb also. It's not just a normal sound. Okay, so that was the first example about the Mario. Apart from that, there's the second example that I would like to take. That is a piece. The piece name is The Swan by Sand Scenes, and it is also known as La Sign. By the way, the melody is very lyrical because it is also a story of a swan which is which is floating on the lake. And like if I will tell you to just close your eyes and imagine the swan effortlessly gliding over the lake, okay, then it also gives a scenery of some calmness in head. Okay, and there are actually this piece was originally composed for the cello and the piano, and the melody is designed in such a way that it is actually very lyrical because it is showing the swan, but the piano which is accompanying the cello, the piano shows the flow of the water, the nature of the water. Okay, and once you will see there are a lot of melodies that will be played on the cello, but when you will see the piano is not stopping because that's a property of water. No one can stop the water. Okay, like stop in the sense if we talk about the river. Let me share my screen. So there are two instruments that you will see here. By the way, I will be sharing the link of these two videos after class notes, in after class notes. And here are two instruments that you can see. One is the cello, and at the left hand side it's a piano. Now I will say like the cello is on the top because it is showing the melody, but still I will request everyone to focus more on the piano since we are talking about the water. Just a second. Yeah. So actually, when we try to understand the music, it is really essential. It is really important to understand the story behind it. Recently, I just started with one more piece of the Vivaldi Summer, and in the piece, the same thing happened. Like my teacher actually told me to start imagining the sound of the birds that you are hearing behind the notes, and I actually struggled a lot to imagine a bird behind the sound because the sounds are already very fast. But still, so once you are listening to some music, I will suggest everyone to try to understand the story behind it first, because once you will know the story, you will find the connection there, the way we found the connection with the piano and the water flowing.
Also,
Yeah.
if I may, Jatin, I just wanted to say one is, of course, if you know the story, it helps. But I think even without knowing the story, when you listen to a piece very, very carefully, it depends entirely on the frame of mind that you're in and how that music affects you. So some pieces become, very dear to you because it has appealed to you at a certain point of time in a certain state of mind, right? So it makes a lot of sense. And then so often it happens, it's just serendipity, I suppose, that you actually want to know more about it. And then you read the story behind it or why the musician, created this. And then you find that the mood which was expected to be there in order to listen and enjoy that actually was the same as what was imagined or what was constructed by the composer. You are already, you're listening to it, and without knowing the background, you relate to it so beautifully. So yes, one, it helps to know the story undoubtedly, but I think even otherwise, when you listen to some bits of music like this one, for instance, you explained to us and you told us to listen to the movement of the water in the piano. But I found that the cello in many ways was overpowering also. It constantly distracted my attention from the piano because it had that, what should I say? It had a reverberance in it, which I think was greater than that of the piano. The piano was softer, lighter, and yes,
Piano
it reflected the water.
piano was actually an accompaniment. So when we try to listen to accompaniment, it becomes a
Yeah,
challenge because accompaniment is generally kept at very soft
absolutely right. It's like
dynamics.
the tanpura in the Hindustani.
Yeah, it's like a tanpura there. But the main story that was represented by the cello, once we try to understand what a composer, like if I will try to give an example of the water and the music, when we talk about the sound design also, we have to be very careful about what instruments we are going to use.
Yes.
Because there are instruments which have a very sharp sound, like a flute, the violin, like they
Yeah.
can be very soothing, but they have some sharpness. But if we talk about the instrument that creates a heavy sound like cello, upright bass, bassoon, they have some calmness already. So it also depends on like what kind of sound we want, what kind of
Yeah.
story we want to deliver.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you so much, Jatin. That was very, very enlightening. So if there is anybody who would like to share a quick thought before I do my last piece of poem, and this I would like to, yes, Kartike, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jatin sir. It was really enlightening to know the friendship between water and how you derive music out of it. This only took me, like Brinda ma'am has been saying, that when we are talking of art forms, I think whatever is derived from nature, be it painting done by sir, you told about the music. I was also thinking that there is one amazing actor which, like, who has given the reference of water for not just for actors but for all the human beings, and I found that video as well so that we all could watch it. But actors too very religiously follow that. It's like whenever they are in sort of distracting from that ideology, we sort of watch that video again so that we know what is to be done as actors. I'll share that video very quickly.
All right. You want to do it right now?
Yeah, ma'am, just immediately.
Okay, so we just have, we are almost 1 minute over time, but you can do that quickly. Sandeep, do we have your permission? Yeah.
Can you see Bruce Lee here?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it is visible.
I'll just play.
is what it is, okay? I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. When you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Wow. Be water, my friend. Wonderful piece, Kartikesh. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for integrating drama into our session also. Willy-nilly, it has come into the session. All right. So with everybody's permission, I would like to read this last poem again by Wendell Berry. It's called The Piece of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. What a beautiful emotion expressed over here. How water or sitting at the side of water can bring solace from all miseries of the world. Thank you, everybody. Please do let us know. You can send us a mail, a message, a blog, whatever you want to. Let us know how you like these sessions and whether you would like to add something to it, to take away something. Please let us know. Your feedback will let us make it better. It will help us to reflect, it will help us to introspect, and it will help us to improve upon ourselves. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you,
see you
ma'am.
next
Good
Thursday.
evening. Bye,
Good
ma'am.
evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank
Good
you.
Good
evening.
evening, ma'am. Thank you.
Everyone.
Good evening.